I hope you've been able to take advantage of the panel discussions and the networking programs over this past week. And I hope you've been able to learn from all of the senior executives who presented their great accomplishments and their collective learning. And if you did miss any of them, please catch the replays, which will be available on our website. For those unfamiliar with Ascend, we are a leadership organization, and we offer professional training programs that meet you wherever you are in your career journey. We have over 60,000 reach through our organization in North America, including Canada. And what we do is we provide professional training to Pan-Asians and emerging leaders in corporate America. Ascend adopts a lifestyle approach, a life cycle approach to our professional training programs. And this way we ensure that they are tailored and they're targeted to your needs as you move through the corporate ladder. Amongst the many programs on offer are Ascend Executive Network, or AEN as we call it, which delivers power networking and thought leadership to senior executives. Ascend Cafe is devoted to small group mentorship by senior leaders, drawn from our pool of corporate sponsors. The Executive Insight Series is a program to develop high potential Pan-Asian managers, senior professionals to attain leadership roles in major North American corporations. And the Executive Insight Series for Women helps mid-level Pan-Asian female managers address common challenges as they rise through their respective organizations. Another is LEAD, which stands for Leadership, Empowerment, Advancement, and Development. And it helps members develop and strengthen leadership skills. Some of you may have participated in the Elevate program, which is a virtual leadership program delivered through state-of-the-art interactive video and cloud-based technologies, offering advice on meaningful behaviors needed for success, such as effective communications, handling challenging situations, and influencing team members and effective decision-making with topics like how can you use influence without authority. So drum roll for the long-awaited moment. On behalf of Ascend, it is my honor and greatest pleasure to introduce Jim Kwik, keynote speaker for Ascend Greater Philadelphia 2020 Inspiring Across Generations Annual Conference. Jim Kwik, indeed his real name, is the widely recognized world expert in memory improvement, brain optimization, and accelerated learning. After a childhood brain injury left him learning challenged, Jim created strategies to dramatically enhance his cognitive and mental performance. He's the author of the New York Times and #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller, Limitless, Upgrade Your Brain, Learn Anything Faster, Unlock Your Exceptional Life. To the lucky early bird registrants, I hope you were able to read the book. And for those others, I can assure you, you will want to go out and buy the book after today. For over 2 decades, Jim has dedicated his life to helping others unleash their true genius and brain power. He has served as a brain coach to students, seniors, entrepreneurs, educators, the who's who Hollywood's elite, professional athletes, and corporate clients like Google, Virgin, SpaceX, GE, and education institutions like Caltech and Harvard. Jim is the founder and host of the acclaimed Quick Brain podcast, which is consistently the top educational training show on iTunes. QuickLearning.com's online courses are used by students in 195 countries. I hope hearing Jim today will inspire you, as it did with me, to begin your own journey to become limitless. And if I may quote Jim in his book, the limitless you is the person you truly are, and the person who over time will become things you cannot even conceive of now. So with that, I give you Jim Kwik.
Elaine, thank you so much. This is a real honor to be here with all of you. And I just opened up the chat here also as well. Where's everybody tuning in from? I'm curious. Maybe you could check in here on the chat. I'm going to get a sense from Ohio, wonderful, San Francisco, Houston, PA, New York City. Wow, It's a good thing I'm a speed reader here also as well. So this is a national conversation. What I want to do is Philadelphia. It's amazing. That makes sense. My in-laws are there. Her siblings are there. Their families. We spent a lot of time in Philly. I'm in New York City. I live between New York City and Los Angeles. So it's good to see. I hope everyone is safe and you're strong. This theme of this conference is all about your grit, growing your grit. And I love this word grit. And I love how you use acronyms and everything stands for something. You have grit, you have lead. I'm going to talk about growing your grit by growing your brain. How many of you in the chat here, how many of you want a better brain? You could just put me, yes, or me's. I mean, I think we all want a brain that we desire and we also deserve, right? Your brain is the #1 wealth building asset that you have. It is by far the most important technology out there, yet we invest and we upgrade our phones, other technology like our phones and our apps more than we upgrade the most incredible device that we're born with. And one of the reasons why is our brain doesn't come with an owner's manual and it's not user friendly. But everybody who's here right now, and I honor you for being here, investing in your own personal growth and to upgrade your brain, is everyone here, you're compensated. It's like it was years ago. It's not your muscle power, it's your mind power, right? You profit, but not by your brute strength, but your brain strength. And the faster you can learn, the faster you can earn. And that's what this conversation is going to be about. I'm going to go for about 30 minutes and maybe a little bit more, and then answer some of your burning questions. So I encourage you to take a lot of notes because I talk rather rapidly. Now, give me a sense here, because I'm going to tailor this for this group. How many of you in the chat, how many of you feel overloaded and overwhelmed? There's too much to learn, too little time. Give me a yes or a me. Too much to learn, right? How many of you have books on your shelf you haven't read yet? Anyone have books on your shelf you haven't read yet? And it becomes shelf help, not self-help, because buying a book is it's a different behavior and habit than actually reading that book. We could talk about a little bit about speed reading if you like in the Q&As. How many of you came here today like to have a better memory? Say me. How many of you forgot why you came here today? Have you ever done that? Have you ever walked into a room of your own home and just forgot why you're there? Anybody here feel absent-minded? Like senior moments are coming way too early? Like you're taking a shower and you can't remember if you shampooed your hair yet and you end up doing it maybe twice? Anybody here misplace things like your wallet, your purse, or know somebody misplaces things all the time? And like your cell phone, you ask somebody to call your cell phone hoping you kept it on so you could find out where you put it. Or your keys, or if not, you lost your keys, maybe something larger like your car. You see the people using their car alarms like GPS, trying to figure out where they park their car, or they figured out, they remember they took Lyft or Uber that day. Anyone have? Does this sound familiar? Like read a page in a book. Have you ever read a page in a book, got to the end, and just forgot what you just read, and you end up going back and rereading it, and you do it twice, and you still don't know what you just read, right? And so I believe two of the most costly words in business and in life are I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that meeting. I forgot that conversation. I forgot that person's name. How many of you honestly have trouble remembering people's names? Give me a yes. Honestly, trouble remembering people's names. And I think really, have you ever met somebody, they give you their name and seconds later, their name just disappears out of your mind? And you wonder where it went. Or if it's not a short-term issue, it's a long-term issue, right? Somebody taps you on your shoulder, you're out and about, you turn around, you see someone you recognize, but for the life of you, you don't remember what. You don't remember that person's name. And what makes it worse is when that person has the audacity to remember your name, right? Or you're talking to someone whose name you should remember, and somebody comes up and you have to what? You have to introduce those two people, and you play these games, right? And you start calling people by nicknames, or you start going through the alphabet. Does it start with an A? Does it start with a B? Does it start with, anyone do this? Or you get really nervous when you get to W because there are not many letters after that. I believe one of the most important business etiquette, networking skills there is our ability to remember someone's name. Because what's the message we send to somebody when we forget their name? Just put it in the chat. I'm going to turn this, is it okay if I turn this into like a master class instead of like yeah, that you don't care, that they're not important. And is that true? Maybe. No, of course it's not true. But here's the thing. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how are you going to show somebody you're going to care for their business, their future, their finances, their family, whatever it is you have to offer them, if you don't care enough just to what? Remember their name. So in this conversation that I'm gonna share with you is these tips to up-level our focus, to up-level our memory, to up-level our thinking, because this is everything. Now, we live in interesting times right now, right? We are experiencing a very unique moment in history that has disrupted nearly every area of our life, and there is no guidebook. And so how can we mentally reboot and catalyze a new approach to how we learn, how we live, how we lead? And so this is a bigger conversation than just, Jim, what are the best brain foods? And I could certainly do that. But I want to, Jim, how do I have to support my children if they're learning from home? How many of you have children? Put it in the chat. How many of you have children? How many of you once was a child? You could put that in the chat, right? But our cognitive abilities, they're limited when our minds feel overwhelmed and when we're dealing with a lot. And when there's too much to process, work and family and health and the world and life in general, the connection between an overstressed brain and the rest of our body can lead to serious challenges, in terms of our productivity, our wellness, our peace of mind. So the question I get asked a lot, having written this book this year and it coming out, I had the option of delaying the launch of the book. But I was like, this book is more than just how to read 3 times faster, remembering names and learning languages. This book is about how to master your mind in turbulent times. It's about how to regain your focus and your productivity if you're working from home, how to support your children if they're in and out of school, how to learn a new subject or skill rapidly if you've lost your job and we're in this disruptive economy. But the big question I get a lot is, how do you become limitless in a limited world? Right? Have you ever thought about this? Like, the title of my book is called Limitless. How do you become limitless in a limited world? And my answer for you is we do it together. Exactly this. What Ascend has put together here, it's where we have each other's backs. We have each other's brains. And it's kind of corny, but it's true. Here's another acronym, TEAM. What does TEAM stand for? Together, everyone achieves more. And that's what we're going to do here today. And the metaphor that I'm using with my clients is that of a butterfly. Because while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon. And when I say cocoon, it feels like we're cocooning, right? You're physically distancing yourself. You're alone with your thoughts. You might be alone with your doubts. You might be feeling alone. And if it's not you, it could be your team could be feeling that. Your family could be feeling that. And one of the challenges is we're clinging to a world that was, rather than progressing and continuing the cycle, kind of like that caterpillar. Because when the caterpillar feels like it's the end of the world, it becomes that butterfly. But it's through its struggle that it gains strength. Do you know that if you saw a creature coming out of a cocoon and it has a little hole there, and if you cut it open, when it came out, it wouldn't look like a butterfly. Its body would be very swollen. Its wings would be very shriveled, because it's the act of that creature pushing itself out that it actually moves the fluids from the body into the wings and nourishes the wings. So this butterfly could come out and fly and soar to new heights. So my goal here in this conversation is to give you resources, tools, ideas where you could come out of this as that butterfly. And what's the story you want to tell, not about, like projecting the future. What's the story that you want to tell about what was going on? Not necessarily in the world, but what was going on inside your world. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And I have a quote in Limitless, and it's a quote from a French philosopher. And he says, "Life is the C between B and D." Life is C between B and D. And you're thinking, Jim, you're speaking in tongues. Can you translate that? You're speaking in code. B stands for birth. D stands for death. C, life, stands for choice. Choice. That our lives, our team's lives, our family's lives is the sum total of all the choices we've made up to this point, right? And here's the thing. I believe in my heart of hearts that these difficult times can diminish you, these difficult times can destroy you, or these difficult times can develop you. Ultimately, we decide. We always have that choice about what we're going to focus on, choices on what things mean, choices on what we're going to do at that time. So I'm going to give you right now 5 quick choices you can make while you're cocooning that will help you to get wiser, smarter, stronger during this time. And I hope it serves you well. And then we'll go into some Q&As, and you can ask me anything, absolutely anything. And we'll talk about your brain, your memory, how to remember names, how to do those things. So write these down. These are the 5 C's, 5 choices you can make while you're cocooning. I'm going to go through them rather quickly. Number 1 is clarity. Clarity. I believe solitude is an incredible opportunity for self-reflection. Sometimes when we're going 100 miles an hour in our day and we're racing through the day, we're going through our checklist, we're going through our to-do list, sometimes we don't check in with ourselves and say, am I driving in the right direction? Does that make sense? Or is my team driving in the right direction? Because just because somebody is busy and going really fast doesn't mean it's effective, right? You could be going really fast nowhere. You could be going nowhere really fast, right? You don't want to climb the ladder of success and realize that when you get to the top, that it's leaning on the wrong wall. So self-reflection, clarity. And I'm going to give you a number of power questions. I believe questions are the answer. That when you see me, on Instagram or Facebook with Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, all these individuals, Bill Gates, we bonded over books, first of all, which is interesting. Leaders are readers. But the people that succeed at the highest level, they ask different questions, and questions become the answer because questions direct your focus. That part of your brain, it's called the reticular activating system, RAS, and your focus is everything. But going back to clarity, my question for clarity is this, write this down. What's most important to me in life? What's most important to me in life? What's most important to me in my career? What's most important to me in my team? What's most important to me in my impact, right? So fill in the blank. But when you ask those questions, these clarifying questions, it'll give you your values. And then I want you to ask a second question. Are my actions today, are my actions aligned with those values? Are my actions aligned with those values? Meaning, how many of you feel a little burnt out? Or people who complain about being burnt out and exhausted? Just put in the chat here. Burnt out, right? And a lot of people feel like they're burnt out because they're doing too much. Let me give you some insight what my experience has been for 29 years of teaching this, because I have a lot of field tested knowledge. And as Elaine mentioned, we have corporate programs and professional programs, students in 195 countries. So we get a lot of data. I find that a lot of people aren't burnt out because they're doing too much. A lot of people feel burnt out because they're doing too little of the things that make them come alive, the things that really light them up, the things that they value. All right. So if you feel like you're working so hard and not feeling fulfilled, ask yourself, what's most important to me in life, in my job, in my career, in my team, in my family? And are my actions today aligned with those things? And that's clarity. Number 2, I would recommend care. We know that self-care is not selfish. And I don't just mean physical hygiene, right? I mean your mental hygiene. Here's something. Chronic stress shrinks your brain. One of the concerns I have, and when I do a lot of corporate training, a lot of stress, it creates, when you're in cortisol, creating adrenaline, it shrinks your brain and it makes it very difficult to focus, makes it very difficult to perform, to remember things, to get the best out of yourself. You're in fight, flight, or freeze. And employees, you don't work really well when you're frozen, right? And so stress management is very important. And we teach all kinds of ways to manage your stress. But a lot of stress comes from the input of what we're allowing inside of our minds. Meaning, how many of you are on Instagram or on Facebook? How many of you are on Instagram, Facebook? And maybe we're connected there. And so we put our daily brain tips on social media. And I love social media. It's great to connect, to inspire, to instruct. But sometimes, here's the thing, there's an algorithm to social media. If you engage, whatever you engage with the most, you get more of. So if you engage with all the cat posts, and you watch all the cat videos, and you like and share and comment on all the cat posts, then what does Instagram or Facebook give you? They give you more cats in your newsfeed. Well, your mind has that same algorithm. And whatever you engage with the most, it gives you more of. And so if you're watching the news and you see everything, because the news is smart, because if it bleeds, it leads, right? Because it hijacks a part of your brain called your amygdala, which basically focuses on what's threatening, what's scary, what's dark, to protect you, right? That's your survival. And so it knows that. But if you're always engaging in that, then you're training your algorithm, whatever you engage with, like those cats, it's going to give you more of. The challenge is you have a limited bandwidth consciously. And that means you're not putting attention towards what? Possibility, opportunity, right? What you could be grateful for in that moment. So when I'm talking about care, yes, in the book, I talk about the best brain foods, how to optimize your sleep, right? The best nutrition for your brain, right? All these different things to be able to self-care for yourself. But one of the ways you self-care is you put borders and boundaries. And I'm not saying don't know what's going on, but be a thermostat, don't be a thermometer. Be a thermostat, don't be a thermometer. Leaders are thermostats. A thermometer, what's the function? Actually put in the chat. What's the function? What does a thermometer do? What's its main function? What does a thermometer do? It just, yeah, it measures the temperature. It tells you the temperatures. It reacts to the environment, right? A thermostat doesn't do that though. A thermostat, it gauges the environment intelligently. You want to know what's going on, but it sets what? It sets a temperature. Just like you as a leader, because if you're watching this, you are a leader, right? You set a goal, you set a KPI, you set a vision, and the environment reacts to you, right? So you have to be very careful what you're training your brain, because you have a limited bandwidth and you have to use that time wisely. I always tell people, the most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important thing. The most important thing in life is keep the most important things the most important things, right? And that's what's important. You don't want to get really good at something that doesn't matter to you or to your organization, or to your own personal vision. So that's a lot of what I mean about care, right? And we could go in the Q&A about the specifics. Ask me about my daily routine. Oprah has hers, everyone has theirs. Mine, I do 10 things every morning to jumpstart my brain. And if you want to win the day, you got to win that first hour of the day. But so many people react and they put their brain on default. And first you create your habits, then your habits create you, right? You create your habits and then those habits create you back. But when have you sat down and looked at your self-care habits? So that's number 2. You have clarity, care. Third C is contribution. Contribution, meaning we talked about chronic stress and the impact it has on your team's productivity, their peace of mind, your own ability to perform. Chronic fear actually suppresses your immune system. Chronic fear it's a whole area of science I talk about called psychoneuroimmunology. It makes you more susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses. And one of the antidotes to fear is contribution, right? And which is wonderful because, even with your acronym for grit, the G is you're being generous, right? And so contribution is the antidote to fear. When you focus on serving other people, it takes you out of yourself and you feel like there's enough, right? And it's like, for example, our book, Limitless, we donated 100% of the proceeds to charity. Part of it went to Alzheimer's research for women. And my parents immigrated here to the United States. My dad was 13, lost both of his parents. They couldn't afford to keep him, and and he left his siblings and came here to live with his aunt. My mom grew up in the back of a laundromat that she worked in. Her parents didn't speak the language, didn't have any money, education, anything. So my aunt, my great aunt, raised me, and she was my grandmother figure because my parents had so many jobs, right? Like many families of immigrants, and was interesting because when I was going through my learning challenges, I had a very bad injury when I was 5 years old, a traumatic brain injury that left me with these memory, focus. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read. When I was 9, a teacher pointed to me in front of the whole class because I was slowing down the class and said, "That's the boy with the broken brain." And well, and that label became my limit, right? But when I was going through these challenges around 5, 6 years old, I was being taken care of by my great aunt, my grandmother. And then she started getting uh, early signs of dementia and then Alzheimer's. And I started taking care of her at the age of 6, so that was reverse. So I'm very passionate about Alzheimer's research. By the way, women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men. And so the research we fund is research on the female brain and female treatments for dementia and Alzheimer's. The other part went to, for our book, the contribution went to building schools. And we build schools, from in Vietnam, in Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya, just all around the world for boys and girls who don't have access to education. We provide healthcare, clean water. But that's how I'm always thinking, I think you learn so you can earn, so you can return. Learn, earn, and return. And so the question is, when you contribute, how can you invest some of your time, your talent, your treasure to make a difference? How can you invest some of your time, talent? And it doesn't have to be big things. It could be making food for frontline workers. It could be calling in a neighbor that might be a little bit more vulnerable, right? Or lonely. Loneliness is such an epidemic to it, especially mental health challenges. And so how can you contribute with your business, your brand, yourself? Fourth C, you have clarity of care, your contribution. Fourth C is creativity. Creativity, meaning, did you know it was during the Great Plague that William Shakespeare created some of his most notable masterpieces? Created Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra. It was when they shut down London, the university there, where Isaac Newton had to physically distance himself, and he was sitting at home and an apple fell on his head underneath his tree, and he created the theories of motion, the theories of gravity. And so my question is, what would you like to create during this time? I believe the future, and it doesn't have to be that, millions of people saw apples fall from trees, but, he had a different question, right? Going back to questions are the answer. I believe the future belongs to the creators. The future belongs to the creators, where, we see this shift where jobs are going to machines. They're going to automation. They're going to AI. What's not going to be outsourced as easily is the things that are truly limitless in our life, our creativity. There's no limit to our imagination. There's no limit to our ability to solve problems. There's no limit to our ability to come together. No limit to human determination, right? Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you currently believe is possible. And it all starts with the human mind, right? And so creativity, what have you always wanted to create? It may be something in your department, maybe a new solution to one of your challenges, or even global challenges. Maybe it's you want to create a blog, you want to start writing, you want to start music, whatever it is. But creativity is what makes us powerful as human beings, right? Future belongs to the creators. And then finally, after clarity and care and contribution, creativity, I'll give you a fifth C. Fifth C, capability. Capability, meaning, how many of you have a to-do list? Just put a me, but and how big is your to-do list? You have a growing to-do list. And I would encourage all of you to also have a to-learn list, a to-learn list. What's on your to-learn list? Because this is a wonderful time to take time. What have you always said you wanted to learn? And we have unfettered access with many of you listen to our podcast, 15 minutes long. It's quick, right? Quick brain. No advertising, no sponsors, tens of millions of downloads. We offer it free to the world, because who knows if a child in a village somewhere on a device listens to it and they learn how to train their brain to solve problems, improve their focus, and they become the next Malala, right? Or, they cure cancer, they do something amazing with the human mind. And so we make that readily available because we want to open source what wasn't taught in school. School is a great place to learn what to learn. They teach you what to learn, what to focus on, what to study, what to remember, what to read, what to think, but not how to do. There were no classes on how to learn, how to focus, how to when you go to your child and say focus, or you go to a teammate and say focus, that's like going to somebody and saying, play the ukulele who's never taken a class on the ukulele, right? Because we're not trained. We're trained what to learn, but not how to learn, what to remember, but there were 0 classes on how to remember. I always thought it should have been the 4th R in school: reading, writing, arithmetic. Spelling obviously wasn't one of them. But what about remembering? What about recall? What about retention? Socrates says there is no learning without remembering. But all of us suffer from digital dementia. We outsource our memories to our smart devices, and it's an external memory that keeps our to-dos. It keeps our calendars. How many phone numbers did you know growing up? Put it in the chat. How many phone numbers did you know growing up? How many phone numbers did you know growing up? Like back when? Like all of your friends and families, right? How many phone numbers do you know right now? Like current phone numbers, not your old house number. How many do you know like right now? 1, my own. 2, right? And there could be somebody you call every single day, text every single day. But if your phone was low battery, wasn't charged, or you didn't have it with you, you wouldn't know what it is. That's digital dementia. That's a real term in healthcare that was released recently, saying that your brain is like a muscle. It's use it or lose it. And I don't want to memorize 500 phone numbers. Although if you see me on stage, an audience will give me 100 numbers and I'll remember it forwards and backwards. I'll memorize 50, 60, 70 people's names in an audience. You could look at my Instagram and see me do these demonstrations and live audiences. But I tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's really possible. Because the truth is you could do it too. Regardless of your age, your background, your education level, your gender, your personal history, your IQ, we could all do it. There's no such thing as a good or bad brain. There's a trained brain and an untrained brain, but they don't teach you this stuff in school, right? So that's why I felt like it's not how smart you are. It's not how smart your kids are. It's not how smart your team is. It's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart? It's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart? And when you understand how your brain works, you could work your brain. And it's that simple. And that's why I wrote this book called Limitless, to be an owner's manual for your brain. But when I'm talking about capabilities, the 5th C, right? Clarity, care, contribution, creativity, capability. This is your time to level up. And if there's one skill, hey, and let me ask you, imagine there's a genie and a genie could grant you one wish, but only one wish. What would you wish for? Put it in the chat. One wish, just one wish. What would you wish for? Just one wish. What would be your one wish? If you could wish for one thing. Limitless wishes, right? Millions of wishes. Now, if I was your learning genie, and I could make you a master and help you learn any one subject or skill, but just one. Would it be negotiation? Would it be marketing? Would it be investing? Would it be what? It'd be learning how to learn. Because if you could learn how to learn, that's like getting limitless wishes, because you could grant all your own wishes. If you could focus and study and read it faster, understand it better, remember it all, apply it and think, you could apply that towards what? Money, marketing, Mandarin, martial arts, music, everything in your life gets easier. It is the most important skill. The reason why I trained the 200 officers at GE, heads of founders of these big organizations, and political leaders, is because learning how to learn is the ultimate competitive advantage, right? And you've read this, even the business books. Eric Reed, how many of you read Lean Startup? Eric in there, he says the only way to win is learn faster than anyone else, right? Jack Welch, noted CEO, says an organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive advantage, learning how to learn. And so I wanted to write Limitless as the ultimate guide to learn how to learn. And that's why teams, they do this to level up so they can build learning organizations. Because if you want your brand to grow, your business to grow, your bank account to grow, our brains need to grow, right? And so those are the 5 C's. And I would say, what have you always wanted to learn? Spanish, salsa, speed reading, you have it available to you, right? But here's the myth. The myth is knowledge alone is power, right? Everyone says knowledge is power, but it's not really true. It's a lie. And in the book, I talk about the 7 lies to learning that will actually, when you reverse them, will liberate you. And one of them is knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. All the books, trainings, podcasts, corporate, none of it works unless you work. Right. And so we teach people how to get the most out of this information so they can rapidly apply it to get new, better results. And so we are 30 minutes into our chat here. And what I would love to do now is really jump into it and spend an equal amount of time answering your questions so I could customize this around the things that are really top of mind for you? What are the problems you as an individual or your team, your family, what are you facing right now? And how can I be supportive to help level you up?
Well, we're going to open this up. Thank you, Jim. It was just amazing. I cannot write fast enough. So I'm so glad this is being recorded. So now we're going to open up for Q&A. We do have questions coming through. So please, guys, keep those questions coming. I'll go ahead and ask you the first one, which is, do you have any advice on how we should train our creativity?
Yeah. Creativity, here's the thing. How many, I believe I mentioned the future belongs to the creators. And I'll give you a couple of ideas. So creativity, first of all, is not something you have. People put themselves in trances all the time with their self-talk. Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good, I'm not creative, or I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. We've discovered more about the human brain in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. And what we found is we're grossly underestimating our own capabilities. And really this conversation is about transcending. Transcend. It's about ending the trance. Ending this mass hypnosis that we're not smart enough, good enough, creative enough, aren't able to focus. So here's one of the trances that we say to ourselves. We ask ourselves, like, I wake up and say, I don't have motivation today. I don't have focus. I don't have creativity to write or to do these things. These are not things you have. These are things you do. You do not have focus. You do focus. You do not even have a memory. You do. There's a process for remembering things. You do not have energy. You do things that generate energy. Same thing with creativity. And one of the keys to success is taking a noun and training yourself to take nouns and turn them into verbs. As a leader, whether you're working with yourself, your team, your children, train yourself when you hear a noun, say, what if I turn that into a verb? Because when you take it from something noun static to a verb, it becomes something that's actionable. And so a couple of things you could do for creativity. First of all, the creatives ask more questions, right? And usually the big innovations in industry, there's a great book. It's kind of highly technical, but I'll give you the gist of it. It's called The Structure of Scientific Revolution, basically saying all the big innovations in industries, automotive, fashion, tech, comes from people outside the industry, because it takes somebody from the outside of the industry to what? Ask a new question. It takes an Elon Musk to look at the automotive industry saying, what if we were going to build a car this way, like with today's technology, as opposed to incremental. Another great book, some of you read it, 0 to 1, right, by Peter Thiel, one of the country's top investors. Peter Thiel, 0 to 1, saying, it's innovation is not going from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. That's incremental. It's additive, right? But going from 0, nothing, creating something brand new, 1. And he has a great question there. He says, what if I needed to reach my 10-year goal, but I only had 6 months to do it? What if I had hit my 10-year goal in 6 months? Because you ask a different question, you get a different answer. You ask a question no one's ever asked before, you'll get an answer no one's ever gotten before. And so one of the ways to improve your creativity is train yourself to ask different questions. For example, in the book, I talk about this idea of a dominant question. We have about 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And a lot of those thoughts come in the form of questions. And there are certain questions we ask more than any other questions. And I call it your dominant question. And here's the thing. So the gentleman who did the cover quote, Will Smith, the actor, we were doing this exercise, and we found out his dominant question is, how do I make this moment even more magical? How do I make this moment even more magical? And we were filming in Toronto, and I help actors memorize scripts and speed read scripts, memorize their lines. And it was like 2 a.m. and it was cold. It was in the wintertime in Toronto. And he's there, and people are freezing. His family's there, I'm there, and he's bringing everyone blankets. He's making hot chocolate. He's cracking jokes. He's telling stories, and he's living his dominant question, right? Because whatever you ask, you're going to focus on. For me, growing up with learning challenges, I was always asking this question: how do I become invisible? How do I shrink down? Because I don't want to get called on. So I would I would get answers, sit behind the tall kid in class, sit all the way in the back, right? Miss these classes because you go to nurse, whatever I started asking because I wanted to shrink and be invisible. Later on, my question becomes, because I was labeled broken, how do I fix this? And I started asking, how do I fix this all the time? And I started getting answers, answers, and answers. So asking new questions to be more creative will get you there. Also, another kind of hack, how many of you are more creative? You come up with ideas, usually when you can't write it down. You're either driving or you're in the shower. How many of you, when you're taking a shower, you come up with these ideas, your mind just goes. And there's something about the water. There's these 4 brainwave states. By the way, I took 5 showers for you this morning just to be focused and creative here for you, just to prepare for this conversation. There's a reason why. It's because we have 4 primary brainwave states. And this is a little technical, but it's very practical. Beta is when you're most awake. We're all in beta right now. Delta is you're fast asleep. The 2 states in between are amazing because for performance. Right below beta is alpha. The alpha state is a relaxed state of awareness. That's a state where you are a sponge. When we teach people how to learn languages faster, or memorize facts, figures, sales scripts, rapidly. I mean, in half, a third of the time. Part of it is putting them into that alpha state. You know what puts you in alpha state? Television. How many of you ever notice you're talking to somebody who's watching sports or they're really into whatever they're watching and you're talking to them and they're in a trance? Information is just going in, right? You can't get their attention. You could actually duplicate that for the information you want to learn. So the alpha state, and there's music that does it. There's breathing techniques that we talk about in the book. The theta state right below that, right above the sleep state, the delta, that's usually where you're most creative. It's usually like when you're in and out of sleep, you come up with all these ideas. And that's a state you could actually duplicate. Even Einstein used to sit in Princeton outside on a rocking chair and hold a rock in his hands. And he would do these thought experiments, these creative experiments. He would visualize himself sitting on a beam of light, looking at a clock and asking a new question. What does it look like if I'm riding on a beam of light heading towards a clock, right? And he would do this thought experiment sitting in the thing, but he would hold a rock because he didn't want to fall asleep, because he wanted to stay in that theta state. And if he fell asleep, the rock would drop and then he would wake up, which he'd want to, go back into it. So it's interesting, right? So you could actually duplicate this theta state through breathing visualization. So that's a couple ideas on the power of questions and theta state to be more creative.
That's a phenomenal, great analogies with the rock. What a way to wake up, though. The next question for you, Jim. Can you please share your morning routine?
Absolutely. So I believe in order to win the day, you have to win that first hour of the day. So I'll give you a few things you could do, and they don't take a lot of time, and certainly if you don't have to do all of these things, you have kids, I would involve the kids to do it with you because it's very important for them. My morning actually starts the night before. The night before, it's so important to get a good night's sleep. Right. And we know that when you don't sleep is important because that's where you number one, clean out plaque in your brain that leads to brain aging challenges. Right. That's when the sewage system kicks in your brain that cleans out this beta amyloid plaque that creates these tangles that lead to Alzheimer's and stuff. Number 2 reason why to sleep is it's where you actually consolidate short to long-term memory. So if you have long-term memory issues, check in on your sleep. It's also where you dream. Right? Did you know your brain doesn't shut off at night, it's more active at night. And what is it doing? It's processing your memories, it's learning, whatever you're doing throughout the day. In fact, talk about creativity, let's go back to that. Some of the most amazing creations were created in the dream state. Did you know Mary Shelley created Frankenstein in her dream? Did you know that Paul McCartney created the song Yesterday in his dream? A chemist created the framework of the periodic table in his dream. Lots of sports figures like Jack Nicklaus was shooting high 70s. He was in this slump and he had this dream where he switched his grip and the next day he shot 65, right? And got back into the zone. Your brain is an incredible device. So one of the things is before I go to bed, how many of you feel like the days are blending together? Just give me a me. The days are blending together a little bit. And one of the reasons why is because if you're not going to restaurants or going to plays or going to movies, we don't have these distinctions that stand out. So is it like, am I working from home? Am I living at work? It's just like, I just don't know anymore, right? And one of the things you could actually build your episodic memory. Your episodic memory is the episodes of your day, your life, right? By just taking 5 minutes at night and reviewing your day. Because some people don't even remember what they had for breakfast, right? But there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and untrained memory. So exercise your memory, use it or lose it. And one of the things you could do is just walk yourself through the day. Take 5 minutes. Who did you meet with? Who did you do calls with? Who did you do Zooms with, right? The things, and that will build your memory. I'll also do this thing that night. How many of you have heard this experience where you had to get up extra early, like maybe 4:30 in the morning, catch a flight or whatever, and you set an alarm clock? Or you have to do something international, a call or something, and you set an alarm clock and you wake up like within minutes or seconds of that alarm clock. How many of you ever done this? Just give me a me. Now think about it. That's the power of the human mind, that you can wake up within seconds or minutes of all the time. Like, that's amazing, right? What if you actually used it for something like before you go to bed? Think about, just like you waking up, think about a question that you want to solve, an issue, an area where you feel limited in your life, or something in your business, and let your brain work on that. You'll probably spend 20 years of your life sleeping, 3 to 5 years dreaming. Use that 3 to 5 years to come up with incredible treasures for your career, and in your days. So I would ask myself a question before I go to bed, and then my creative mind will work on it. So the first thing I do in the morning, I remember my dreams. And you can just search Jim Kwik, Remember Your Dreams, or I documented in the book, 6 Steps to Remembering Your Dreams, because a lot of people have these dreams, but they forget it the next morning. That's not very useful either. I believe I forgot are the 2 most costly words in our life, right? And it doesn't have to happen like that. The second thing I do is I make my bed. And this is so important. You're like, for your brain loves a clean environment. Your brain loves a clean environment. And plus, how you do anything, talk about the brain, how you do anything is how you do everything. And you want to start your day. How long does it take to make a bed? A minute, 2 minutes? Do it with excellence, because you take that same excellence into your other things, your daily activities, all right? And also start your day with success. And then when you come back, how many of you love coming back to a well-made bed, right? And you come back full circle to success. Simple thing you could do, and do with your kids also. Teach them how to remember their dreams. Teach them how to be able to make their beds. Third thing I do, I drink water, and you'll see me drink water often, because your brain is mostly water, 75% water. And you can lose in sleep a pound of water a night, right? Meaning through respiration, through perspiration, and just staying hydrated will boost your reaction time and your thinking speed 30%. 30% lift. And you're thinking, that's not it. I believe like our performance is like money. Like, how many of you would love to get 30% return on your, these are something, little things you could do. All right. So drink water. That's when I take my probiotics too, because you do have a second brain. I talk about your gut is your second brain in the book, and how to trust your intuition and link the two together. Next thing I do is exercise. It's interesting. There's a study done at Appalachian State University saying for weight management and for deeper sleep, when's the best time to exercise? Morning, afternoon, or evening? 7 a.m. They tested 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And they said it was 7 a.m. And it doesn't have to be your whole exercise, because I don't do my full exercise routine, but for 3 minutes. I'll jump on a rebounder. I'll do some jumping jacks, some light calisthenics, 3 minutes, walk my dog, right? Nice brisk walk. But what's good for your heart is good for your head. That as your body moves, your brain grooves. And that's so important to do this, even being on screens all day. They say sitting is the new smoking, that you want to take a break every hour or so. And it's actually good for your memory to do so. Take a 5-minute break to move, to breathe. Because a lot of people are tired when they read. They fall asleep when they read because their posture. Like when you're sitting, make sure you're not slumped down, because the lower 1/3 of your lungs absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen. And a lot of people are tired, not because they're not eating, it's just they're not getting enough airflow. Your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the air and nutrients, right? And so make sure you're breathing. And then also use that time to hydrate, because a lot of fatigue is coming from just dehydration. And so I'll drink some water, and I'll exercise, movement as well. As your body moves, your brain grooves. When you exercise, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, and it's like fertilizer for your brain. In fact, when you go for a brisk walk or you're on elliptical and you listen to like a podcast or an audiobook, which I narrated this myself, like 13 hours long on Audible. If you listen to it, you'll actually learn it better, you'll comprehend it better, and you'll retain it better if you're moving. All right. So I'll do 3 minutes of exercise. Next, And this is going to be the controversial one. I'll take a cold shower. Now, I grew up in the Northeast. I do not like the cold, but the cold, it can be your teacher, it could be your friend. And what it does is, even better than coffee, it resets your nervous system. Yesterday on Instagram, I posted, I interviewed Wim Hof, who they call him the Iceman, who climbed, Kilimanjaro and Himalayas in his underwear, and he does these ice baths. But it's incredible for performance, because the cold, when you bump your knee on a coffee table, you put ice on it to reduce swelling, to reduce inflammation. Well, we carry a lot of that just through stress, with everything that's going on in the world. So the cold could be your friend. Plus, you want to train yourself to do difficult things. I think it's so important that in life, if you just do the easy things in life, procrastinate, put things off, binge watch, whatever, then life gets hard. If you do easy things in life, life gets hard. But if you do hard things in life, life gets easier. And you could take that grit. We're talking about growing your grit. One of the best ways of growing your grit is doing difficult things, because it builds your resilience, right? So you could follow through and have that difficult conversation at work, right? Or other things that are difficult, do public speaking or do some things because you've built that. And so I would say, besides that, take a cold shower. And you could be just 30 seconds and then go warm again. 30 seconds cold, 30 seconds, whatever you feel comfortable with. I outline it, my specific strategy in the book. And then I do this last thing. I'll make a brain tea. And I put the ingredients there are a brain power smoothie, right? There's certain foods that are really good for your brain, neuroprotective, whole area of science called it's neuronutrition, that your brain requires different nutrients than the rest of your body. So I'm really talking about brain diet, right? So I'll put it all in a blender, drink it. And then I'll write down, I'll journal 3 things I want to accomplish that day, personally, and then 3 things professionally. And it's different each day. But most people have a to-do list of 100 things, which not in a million years will they cover those things. But I want to start with first things first, the most important things. And I do a thought experiment. I say, okay, if I'm coming back later tonight and I get asked, like, how was your day? And I want to say, I won. It was amazing. I crushed it today. And I ask, what had to happen in order for me to feel that way? Kind of like a champagne moment. In sports, when you're opening the champagne, it's very clear, but do you have that for your day? Like, what does it take to win in the day? And I write 3 things personally, 3 things professionally. And they don't have to be really huge things. But if I got those 3 things done, I feel really good. It could be that walk with my dog personally, right? Or something, I got to catch up with a friend, something personally and something professionally. And here's the thing, you'll notice the one thing I don't do first thing in the morning, which is what? Tell me. And I know you know it in the chat. What's the one thing that everybody does first thing in the morning? Just put it right there in the chat. And you use it. Check your phone, right? You check your phone. And here's the reason. I have a video, 37 million views on Facebook, 37 million views saying don't check your phone. Don't have the phone at your dinner table. Why? Because it creates an immense amount of anxiety. Even if it's face down, it creates this compulsion to grab it. And here's the other thing. Remember I said when you wake up, you're in that theta, alpha, relaxed state, you're extremely suggestible, extremely. And if the first thing you do is pick up your phone, you're rewiring your brain for 2 things that's affecting your productivity and your peace of mind. Number 1, you're rewiring your brain for distraction. Every ring, ping, ding, like, share, comment, cat video, it's training your distraction muscles, and you wonder why you can't focus at work. You can't focus when you study. You can't focus when you read. You can't focus when someone's talking to you, because the first thing you're doing is flexing your distraction muscles. The second thing it's doing first thing in the morning when you're very susceptible is rewiring your brain for not only distraction, but for reaction. You become a thermometer because you're reinforcing this identity where you're fighting fires, you're on the defense. How many people have ever gotten a text message, a social media message, a voicemail message, an email, and it just puts you in a bad mood the rest of the day, right? You do not want to start your day as a leader reacting to everybody else. That's why you want to set your intentions of the 3 wins, personally and professionally, first, before your life gets hijacked by your inbox, right? And I understand that there's exceptions, that if your job relies on you checking in first thing in the morning, or you're in a kind of job where it's life and death, certainly. But these are just the principles of owning this. Remember, life is a C between B and D. B is birth, D is death, C is choice. Make these choices consciously. Technology is a tool for you to use, but if it's using you, who becomes the tool, right? And that's the challenge with these devices, because there are billions of dollars being put into these apps and these devices to keep you on their platform. And if you're and some of the greatest, like, brilliant minds. And so make sure you make it easy for yourself by controlling your environment, and because you don't want to get it hijacked. And so I don't touch my phone until I accomplish one of those 6 things, 3 and 3. I just try to check one thing off, and then I can go to my phone in a perfect world. And life is not about perfect. It's about progress.
Well, Jim, it has been such an honor and such an inspiration to all of us. We are close to the top of the hour. I know you have to run to another interview. We are so fortunate to have spent the last hour with you. Thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts on behalf of the Ascend Philadelphia chapter. We hope to see you again in the future.
Everybody, just one challenge. So my challenge for all of you right now moving forward is that I believe your life is like that cocoon. That if a cocoon, or imagine an egg, if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if it's broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things begin on the inside. And you have greatness inside of you. You have genius inside of you. And now is the time to let it out. The biggest mistake I see people making, do not downgrade your dreams to meet this current situation. Do not downgrade your dreams, your vision to meet this current situation. Upgrade your discipline, your capabilities, right? Your commitment, your consistency to be able to meet your dreams, your biggest destiny. If people want to find out more about the book, it's right there. It's just limitlessbook.com. And we donate 100% of the proceeds. And when you go there to redeem it, we actually send you a 10-day speed reading memory enhancement course as my gift, because I want you to be capable. So when the book arrives, you have some tools to be able to read it faster, retain it better, so you could take that knowledge and turn it into real power. So I would challenge everyone to take a screenshot of this conversation, and tag the organization, tag Ascend, tag me at Jim Kwik on any social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and share one thing you're going to do in your daily routine to make a difference. Or maybe one thing, did anyone take any notes today? Just maybe say yes in the chat. One thing that you learned today, because when you teach something, you get to learn it twice. When you teach your friends, your family, your followers, your fans, whatever, you get to learn it even better. And so tag it, and then I will actually repost some of my favorites from today. And I'll actually gift a copy of the book to one person, just as a thank you for being here. Or take a picture of your notes and tag me in that also as well. My main thing is that there's a version of you that you haven't met yet, and just keep showing up until you're introduced. Now is the time to not be scared. Now is the time to be too optimistic to scare, too positive to doubt, too determined to be defeated. And you are the greatest project you will ever get to work on. Make time to do that. Take your time and create magic. And I want to thank, a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So I want to thank your incredible team, Elaine, for making this possible for everybody. I appreciate the capes that you wear. And I wish
Thank you, Jim. Well, those are highly inspirational words. And thank you so much for your generosity, the book giveaway. And we'll stay in touch via the tags and everything else that's on your website. So we look forward to seeing you again in Philly. Thank you. And for the others who want to stay back for the workshop, please do. Jim, thank you again. Take care. Appreciate it.
Much love, much learning.
Bye-bye.